Also this morning, a newly released report from special counsel John Durham slams the FBI's investigation into the 2016 Trump campaign. It is a scathing 300-plus page report, 4 years of investigation. It concludes the FBI never should have opened the investigation into former President Trump's ties to Russia. But ultimately, it falls short of proving Trump and his allies' claims of a political witch hunt. There is a lot to dissect in this. Paula Reed joins us now. We've been waiting again 4 years, now 306 pages in this report. What was the purpose and what is the big takeaway?
Well, Poppy, after Durham was appointed by Bill Barr, former President Trump and his allies claimed that Durham would be able to prove the FBI's investigation was nothing more than a political witch hunt. But the report released yesterday offered no significant new evidence to support those claims.
I'm waiting for the report like everybody else.
A nearly 4-year investigation is over. Special counsel John Durham releasing his findings in a 300-plus page report. He states that the FBI used raw, unanalyzed, and uncorroborated intelligence to launch Crossfire Hurricane, the year-long FBI investigation into former President Donald Trump's associates and Russian officials. But when it came to weighing concerns about Hillary Clinton's campaign of alleged election interference, the FBI applied a different standard. Durham determined there was no concrete proof of collusion between Trump's 2016 campaign and Russia before the start of that FBI investigation. In his harshest criticism of the FBI, Durham says the agency didn't interview any essential witnesses and didn't do a significant review of its own intelligence databases, adding the FBI launched the investigation without any of the standard analytical tools typically employed by the FBI in evaluating raw intelligence. He suggested that if the FBI had followed those measures, they would have found no evidence linking Trump's 2016 campaign to Russian officials. Although Durham identified flaws in the investigation, he did not suggest any changes to the FBI's policies. Former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe defended the agency's handling of the investigation.
Yeah, I vehemently disagree with Mr. Durham's characterizations of what we did in the report. Look, the fact is, we knew what the Russians were doing and had done in an effort to help Donald Trump. And if we had had any information, any intelligence or information that indicated that the Clinton campaign was colluding with the Russians, we would have investigated that as well. But that information doesn't exist, and to my knowledge, was not happening.
Durham was appointed by Trump's former Attorney General Bill Barr in 2019. The investigation cost at least $6.5 million. It led to 1 minor conviction and 2 trial losses. For years, Trump and his allies have claimed that the FBI's investigation was a political witch hunt. Posting on social media, Trump claiming vindication. Wow, after extensive research, special counsel John Durham concludes the FBI never should have launched the Trump-Russia probe. House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan has announced that he has reached out to the Justice Department to have Durham testify next week, a clear sign that Trump's Republican allies will seek to use this report to advance their own political objectives, even if it didn't produce the blockbuster revelations that they had hoped. Poppy.
Paula, thank you for dissecting all that for us. Appreciate it. So just get us to why we're here, who John Durham is, what the assignment was.
Yeah, Poppy. So our story begins 4 years ago, spring of 2019, when a different special counsel, Robert Mueller, was wrapping up his report. Now, I know you'll remember, Robert Mueller found that Russia did try to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, and the Trump campaign knew about and expected to benefit from that experience. However, Mueller also found there was no criminal conspiracy between Donald Trump and Russians. Well, Trump very quickly declared victory. He claimed no collusion, no obstruction, not exactly an accurate take on Mueller's findings. And Donald Trump began this refrain: investigate the investigators. What happened a couple weeks later? Sure enough, Donald Trump's Attorney General, Bill Barr, named John Durham and told him to look into the origins of the Russia investigation. Durham, by the way, had been a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney, but also had been a federal prosecutor for 35-plus years.
Had also been praised by Democrats like Chris Murphy and Merrick Garland, the Attorney General. Joe Biden, the president, left him in place for all of this. Walk us through his findings.
Yeah, so big report yesterday, 300-plus pages. Here are the key findings by John Durham. He found there is no actual evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia at the start of the investigation. Now, you're never going to have all the information right up front, but Durham says that this thing should have ended and never become a full-blown investigation. Durham also criticizes DOJ and the FBI. He says they relied on raw, unanalyzed and uncorroborated intelligence. He said they should have done more diligence before they relied on some of the things they relied on, including the infamous Steele dossier. And Durham notes that there was a predisposition to investigate Trump by some members on the team. Durham does cite email and text exchanges between certain members of the team that clearly show they were anti-Trump and wanted him to lose the election.
They do, and we'll get to those with Andy McCabe, who is on the team, who's named 60 times almost in this report, what he thinks of those text messages. But before you go, there is a departure in the Durham report from the Mueller report. How do you square the two? Can you? What should Americans take away this morning when they say, well, the Mueller report told us this, but the Durham report tells us this?
Yeah, so the Mueller report said this investigation was properly predicated. We were right to go ahead. Also, DOJ's Inspector General said there were problems with some of the things the FBI did, but the investigation was properly predicated and should have gone forward. Also, let's remember, the Republican-controlled Senate Intelligence Committee in 2020 found that there was ample basis for this investigation to move forward.
Back here at home yesterday, John Durham issued that pretty scathing report about the FBI. He was looking into the investigations of the Russia probe. You know, the report was scathing. He faulted them for starting the investigation, but there weren't any of the blockbuster revelations that Trump had been promising or his allies, saying it was the crime of the century. You once called the Mueller investigation a witch hunt. Do you still stand by that comment?
Well, I was struck at how much of Durham's report followed the Department of Justice Inspector General investigation of the investigation of Russia collusion. And I think Durham hit it on the head when he said there was a predisposition to investigate Trump. I've had a lot of dealings with the FBI over many years, beginning back in the Reagan administration when I served at the Department of Justice. I think it's an outstanding institution. I think 99% of the people in the FBI are patriotic Americans, really salt of the earth. But there are a number of them over the years who think they walk on water. And I think a lot of those people were involved in the Hillary Clinton investigation in 2016 and in the Trump investigation. And I think what the IG and the Durham report show is that their power went to their head. And that is dangerous in an institution like the FBI.
But you can criticize that. Do you still think the Mueller probe, though, in and of itself, into what it was looking into and the charges against the Russians was a witch hunt?
There was no evidence of collusion at all. What they looked at in the case of Russian contacts with the Trump campaign on the part of the campaign were incompetence and stupidity, not an effort to collude with the Russians.
Yeah, they found the links. And
believe me, if I thought there was evidence of Donald Trump colluding with Russia, I would be getting it out there. There just isn't any, for good or ill.